I got it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you see my screen all right?
I can.
Awesome. So, if it's all right with you, we can start the presentation.
Just 1 second. Still have some folks that need to join.
Oh, no problem.
Uh, I see Bobby's on. Uh, do you have anyone in with you, Bobby?
Yeah, it's Ricky Goodman's here with Bobby.
Oh, okay, Ricky. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Susan and Jimmy's on Saturday.
I couldn't hear you. You cut out, Bobby. What'd you say?
Susan and Jimmy are on the way,
Oh, okay.
but you can go.
All right.
You can go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
I'm waiting to see if Sai is going to join us also. Looks like Sai's coming in now.
Cedric, while we're waiting for a few more people to join, you want to give us, the 2-minute overview of what you're looking for?
What we're looking for is a product that will manage our warehouse inventory. We get supply requisition requests that need to be filled within the 3 facilities that we have. We get, all the basic warehouse needs, receiving, scanning, purchase orders, and all of those things associated with warehouse management.
Okay. So the requisitions, do people have buying limits? Do you want to set like $5, $10, $20,000 limits, or how does?
Um, the requests are more of what's in stock in the hospital. I mean, in the warehouse. So
Oh,
the
okay.
people giving the supply requisitions are more like doing ordering. And I think
Okay.
when I spoke with Ben, he said that you have a process that could mimic that for us.
Yeah, we have a quick order screen that'll probably work for that. So your requisitions are just for materials that are in your warehouse already. They're not for new materials that you're buying.
That would be what the purchase orders would be for.
Right, right. So but your users in general are not. Do they request items that you don't have very often?
It's possible.
Okay, okay.
I think
I'm
everybody's here. Go ahead.
okay.
Are we all ready to begin?
Um, Sai, can you see the screen? And Bobby, you guys can see the screen?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we see the screen.
Okay. All right. I guess we're ready.
Awesome. So I have the sheet that you sent over to Ben earlier with all the different requirements that you wanted from Inventory Pro. So I thought we'd just start out going through that. So we're going to start out with product categorization. So every item in the system can be set with a category that you can set up. This is
Hmm.
the item master record. This is where you can set all of the different attributes for an item. As you can see, we have categories here. And you can also create whatever categories you want as well. So if you wanted to create a new category, we can just add one right here. Then we can call it whatever we want. We can say cold items. And now you can look it up right here in the categories list, right here. And you can easily set that to any item you want by going through the item master record. So the item master record has many different tabs on it. So we have a reorder level system where if the inventory ever drops beneath a certain level, the inventory will automatically refill itself through through the system. We also handle different serial numbers and makes for different items. You can also set the cost of how much you're selling the item, as well as how much you're buying the item as well. And this will automatically fill in for purchase orders and shipping orders. Now, I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but while we're here, I know that you guys were looking for different customer pricing. So down here we have 10 different price levels that you can set the inventory to. So we have 5 price levels for just ordinary. So you can have, say for example, you're selling to one customer for $10 each, but you may sell to another one for 20. You can set that right down here. Same thing for cases as well. So Zachary Ahern will cover the product measurement in the system.
Okay.
Just give him 1 second.
Yeah, so the system does support, measurements, at least in the past it has. We don't really do a lot with it at the moment, but if you can tell us your specifications for, how you want to track the measurements, we've done a few things for clients recently, and we should be able to support that in some manner.
All right, going on from there, we're going on to product history. So iPull has a giant receipt of everything that ever happens in the system under the inventory reports known as the audit trail. And through the audit trail, you can track everything that's happened in the system. For example, you can see July 8th, we shipped 1 unit of LCD 50 high definition. And you can see all the different shipping order references and the adjustment reason. Do you have any questions so far?
I do not. Does anyone else have any questions?
I do have a question. That item ID that you're referring to there,
Yes.
is that a customizable number? Can we set that number?
Yes, you can set that number to anything that you want. I believe
The system also supports parts aliasing. So if you have multiple numbers or if you have UPC numbers you'd like to tie in as well, that can be done with the system.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. You can also view all of the different stock through the system. We have many different reports for things like that. For example, to see all the inventory in the system, you can go to the inventory count. And you can see all of the different inventory. And if you want to see it by a supplier, you can go in and, oops, I picked one that didn't have a supplier. Here we go. You can go in and search by that supplier as well. And you can see all of the available and in stock you have. So I see the next on the list is cycle counts. The system does function with cycle counts in both the desktop and the mobile versions. So basically with cycle counts, you would run a cycle count for a warehouse. And it'll show all of the different inventory in that warehouse. iPull will then show you right here the amount that it expects you to have through the system. And then if you count in real life, say you have 55 in the warehouse, when iPull only says you should have 50, you can click this and save it. And now you can post that changes. And you can see here it'll add 5 of that item into your inventory when you post it.
And to continue off of that, Inventory Pro also supports a blind count or like a fast movers, slow movers, etc. Special counting methods in the mobile application. So that's something easier where you can send your guys out into the warehouse, and as they're going through the warehouse and locations, they can actually just mark off, okay, we found 10 here, 5 here, etc., etc. And that's set up so it would be a blind count, so they won't know exactly what's supposed to be in the system, so that hopefully you get the accurate numbers, and back at the office, then you can kind of review that and see, okay, is anything missing, or do we have an overage, anything like that.
All right, and I believe that covers inventory management. So we already talked about the audit trail. We have another audit trail as well for active parts. And as you can see, we don't have any in the system as of right now, but that'll show you all of the active parts in the system moving around. Now we can move on to inventory transferring, we have a system called locate and move. And basically, this will allow you to move units between locations and also between warehouses. So by clicking locate and move, and then locate and move again, this will bring you to the inventory movement between locations. And this will allow you to change locations. So as you can see at the top of the screen, you select your warehouse with the inventory in it and the location you're moving from. And you would then select the location that you're moving it to as well. So before I can do this, let me quick show you how to create a location so we can move from one location to the other in this warehouse. So we would go to locations. We're under Acme Tool for the warehouse we're in. We're going to go to create location. And we're going to create freezer room in the Acme Tool warehouse. Are there any questions so far?
Not from here.
Sorry if I'm moving a little too quick. You can always tell me to slow down if I'm going a little too fast for you. So then we'll go back to locate and move, and we'll move to from that new location, from the old location to the new one. So now you can see we have a pallet of 10 units right here, and we'll move it right over to our freezer room by clicking move units. You can see the stock is moved to the freezer room. Now look, moving between warehouses, there's two methods, and you can set this via the system. There's the transit system, which is turned on by default, and the direct transit system, which can be turned on in the background. So this system is used mostly for if your warehouses are very far away from each other. This will put the items in transit. So we'll move an item from Acme Tool to Acme Manufacturing. And now to do this, the item has to be turned on in both locations though. So if the item isn't active in both locations, this transfer won't work. So see, we put this stock in transit, which means that it's taken out of the system's active parts and put on hold basically. So now that stock is in stasis. Now what we can do is go back into locate and move. And whenever you receive that stock back in, you can go to receive units in transit.
You have to switch the other warehouse.
Yeah, sorry about that. And now we're going to receive these units. And if we go to the audit trail, we can see the transactions that just happened just now. Are there any questions so far?
Hi, this is Susan. I have one question.
Sure.
When you're transferring from warehouse to warehouse, we have different stock numbers in each of the warehouses.
Yes.
Would you be able to transfer, like the mattress in our warehouse is 541 and in the mattress in their house is 321? How would we transfer that? Do you have the ability to change the stock number as it enters the other warehouse?
Zach A., can you handle this one?
To be honest, in a system like this, we expect all the stock numbers to be consistent across your warehouses. If you have a couple versions, we might be able to do something with the parts alias system. But, primarily the system expects it to be just kind of ubiquitous between all of the sites you're managing as far as, you know, what your part numbers are in each different site. We don't allow for any, you know, changing of the part number in the transit step.
So Susan, can you, this is Sai, can you explain to me why they would have a different stock number?
Well, as you just said, there's
three
there's
different-
2 separate numbers, so.
Like Si,
Yeah.
our facilities, Chattahoochee's got one kind of mattress under one stock number. We have a mattress under a different stock number, and Gainesville has a different mattress under a different stock number. They may be 3 different descriptions. That's why they need 3 different stock numbers.
Okay.
But we want to keep it separate among the facilities.
So do you want to keep those separate descriptions?
We want to keep them separate between the facilities because each facility has different types of residents that might stock different things, but called the same thing.
Well, you know, that's probably has to change then. If we're going to standardize on stuff, we standardize on the description across the board, or if you want to keep the existing description and keep them separately, it'll be 3 different stock numbers. That's a decision we'll have to make.
Correct.
That makes
And that'll be fine. Yep, that'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on. I think we'll cover the warehouses next. So Inventory Pro can handle any number of warehouses, and creating a warehouse is very easy. All we do is go into warehouses up in the inventory tab, and then we click on the create warehouse button. So we'll set the name of this warehouse to Acme Tailor Shop, and the location that will be the default, we'll set it to the front room. You can think of locations kind of like different areas within a warehouse. So you've got the main warehouse, and inside the warehouse are many different locations, and inside every location are many different items. And from here we have our new warehouse. And we'll create a new location here. I believe I accidentally called it front room. I'll fix that up quick. Sorry about that. On to locations. So you can have any number of locations tied to a warehouse. So we'll create a front room. And a back room. And we'll use this location for all of our different inventory today. You can set a description for every location as well. So we'll do just like this. And we'll go through a basic receive and a basic issue. So to receive stock in Inventory Pro, you go to Inventory and then Receive Stock. Here you can select the warehouse you want to be working in. We'll set it to all suppliers, but you can filter the inventory by supplier as well. And we'll receive in this first item just to make things easy. We'll receive in 100 units. Each costs about $10. And we'll receive these into the back room. We don't have any serials set up, but we could set those up if we wanted to as well. And you can set any remarks as well. So say handle with care. You save the screen and all the information will fill itself in. I believe if I would have left the cost empty, it would have filled in automatically.
So this is related to when you're receiving.
Yep, when you receive
Stock,
new stock
right?
when you receive new stock into a warehouse.
So a lot of times when our receivers, they receive packages in our warehouses, they usually have like a purchase order with them to make sure that when it's being delivered,
Yes.
that whatever the pallet is there a way to confirm that instead of just saying I received 100 units with a cost of blah blah blah? So
Yes, we do have purchase orders, and I was going to go to that right after this.
okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. This is just a basic receive. A purchase order is more like an advanced receive, so I thought we'd start at the easier one. So we just received in 100 units. So now we'll go into the purchase orders like you were talking about. So to create a purchase order, you can either go into purchase orders and click create purchase order, or you can just click create purchase order right here. It's up to you. And here you can set all of the different things for this purchase order. You can set the supplier that you're ordering from. So we'll order from Acme Industries. Anything with a checkbox needs to be filled in to complete the order. And you can set the order number to whatever you want. The system is set right now to automatically create your purchase order number. It would be PO dash whatever number order this would be. So it could be 0001, 0002, all the way up to 10,000. You can set where the ship to location and where to invoice this to. You can also set things to job numbers. So if this is, for example, you need this part to create a shoe for a job, or you're ordering in a wrench to use for a job, you can set this to a job and then view it on a report later. So once you're satisfied, you would click save. And all the information will fill itself in. Who created the purchase order, when it was created, when this was modified and the last person to modify it. So now to add lines to our purchase order, we would go to the line items right up here at the top middle and click add line. So we'll order in some drill bits, and you can see it'll automatically fill in the unit price set on the item. And we'll also order in Edger Concrete 6. And we'll order 10 of this one. And you can set notes for both of these items. So this can be for any number of things. It's just a basic notes field. So you can say, for the construction project, or handle with care. And we'll save it. And now we'll receive this purchase order. This will bring us back to the receiving grid from earlier. So here's where it gets a little confusing for some people. This will show you how many of the item you're receiving in, not the item you're receiving total. So for example, if I put a 0 here and a 5 right here, we'll only receive in 5 of this. However, to receive 0 units, you just have to remove this line. So we will mark it and we'll delete it from the line. This isn't deleting it from the purchase order, it's just making it so you're not receiving in that line of stock. So we'll click save, and we'll receive those 5 units in. And here's another thing that catches people on the purchase orders. This will pop up and ask you if this will complete your order. So for example, If we brought in all 11 of the items we ordered, we would click OK and finish up our order. But since we only ordered 5 out of the 11 units, we'll click Cancel, which will leave the order open. And this will show us all the labels for the items we just received in. So we'll go back into purchase orders to see all of the open purchase orders. And you can see the order we were working on is now a partial receive because we received part of it in. So if we go back to the lines right here, you can see that we received in 5 out of our 10 units for right here. And we didn't receive in any of our units for this. So let's go ahead and finish up our receive. This time we'll click OK to finish up the order, and you can see that I have 1 and 5 here to receive in the rest. And now our purchase order is fully received, and we can view it on the purchase order screen under the completed tab. And right here, we can print out a document for this purchase order. You can see the 2 items we ordered, the amount we ordered. It's got a barcode attached, the amount it cost, and all the different totals. Are there any questions? All right. Moving forward. Now seems as good a time as any to go over shipping orders. So shipping orders, well, before we get to shipping orders, let's begin with a basic issue. To issue stock, you go to Inventory, Issue Stock. And this will bring you to a screen like this, just like the receiving screen. And just like the receiving screen, you pick the warehouse you want to issue from, the supplier filter if you want one, and then you can select the item ID you want to issue from. So down here we brought in these drill bits. We'll order 2, save, and fill in the information. And now we select the location that we want to issue from. So we'll issue from dock. We'll save this screen. And we'll finish the issue. We can set a remark as well. So we'll do, oh, I don't know, something like this. We'll finish the issue. And now we've issued that out of our stock. So now we'll go into shipping orders. So just like purchase orders, you can either go into orders, shipping orders, and then create order, or orders, create shipping order. And that'll bring you to a screen just like the purchase order one. This screen, just like the purchase order, only needs these 2 things that are checked. So we'll go in here and pick our ship to location and our bill to location. If you leave the bill to blank, it'll just automatically fill in with the ship to location. And we'll save, and the rest of the information will fill right in. Are there any questions so far?
Hi, Susan again. I have a question.
Sure.
Right now we have a location code where we type in a code in one of the cells, and there's a list of locations that automatically populate the form. Is that an option too? Or do every time we do a order, do we have to type it in?
I
So
believe.
the system does allow you to set up a customer record, and you can fill out a lot of these fields, the default values for a lot of these fields on that customer record. And the same
Okay,
goes
so
for the
we could.
POs if you fill out the data on the vendor.
Okay, so we could have like a drop-down menu with options to fill it in.
Yeah, so if you select the ship to field, that's the only one you actually have to really select here to generate the order. Once you select the ship to field, everything else, the bill to, default sales tax rate, default shipping options, etc., can pre-populate.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So this issue order or ship to is basically when you're dispersing the inventory from your warehouse. Is that correct?
This would be when you're selling the inventory out to a certain buyer or customer. So if you sell, I don't know, a mattress like we were talking about earlier, you would want to create a shipping order for that, where you would then put the mattress in and set the mattress's price, and then Inventory Pro will track that shipping order.
So how hard is it? Well, I'm just saying because we don't actually sell anything from our warehouses.
You just
This is the warehouse systems that we have are for internal use.
so you
What
just
we do is, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to ask, so do you charge each warehouse, or do you just send them back and forth?
No. So what happens is, well, maybe I should explain our process here so you have a little bit of better understanding. We are mental health facilities and institutions that our warehouses contain inventory for use by the staff and on-campus facility. So what our staff do is Susan and Bobby, they're on the call. They're responsible for these warehouses, and what they do is the on-location staff will fill out a sheet that says, I want 10 of these pencils for use, right? And that piece of paper, when they're filling it out, there's a pre-filled item number that states that the pencil that has a description of those pencils, and it goes to their supervisor, and their supervisor will approve it, and then it comes on to Susan, and Susan will make sure it's available in the warehouse. If it's available in the warehouse, it automatically goes for pickers to pick, and they disperse it out. If it's not available in the warehouse, she does a purchase order, and those purchase orders are electronically sent to a different system that generates those purchase orders for the public.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it sounds like there's no price when you're shipping things out because you're shipping things internally, correct?
That is correct, but we do keep track of the cost of those pencils when, if we do use it.
Yeah, so that would be so on purchase orders, when you're receiving it in, you want to track the price you bought it for, but not necessarily how much you're shipping between these items, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
So
Zach S.,
yes.
I think if you think about the school district system we've been working on a lot lately, I think it's fairly similar where, they could probably just use the quick order system to put in the orders,
Okay.
and then possibly use like restocking to automatically generate the POs if they don't have enough,
Yes,
stock.
so we'll go right into that. So the quick order system is under orders and quick orders. And here it'll show you a list of all of the inventory here, how many you have available. So we'll go into our tailor shop. You can see we have 100 available here. So now we'll set the customer we're shipping to. So we'll ship to, doesn't matter, Acme Chevron. And then you select the number of units. And then you could ship that out, and this will automatically create a shipping order. and then you can review this quick order. And then we can place the order, and it will automatically create a shipping order for this. And you can select the price level for the different customers and the location you're shipping from. And then if you wanted to set the unit price to 0 since you're shipping to a different warehouse, that's possible as well. Then we can issue this order. And just like the purchase order screen, you can select how many you're going to issue in this one shipping order. So if we select 6, this will create a back order and create a second. It'll basically ship out 6 of them, and then the other 6 will be kept in a separate order. So if we go back to our shipping orders, it'll add an extra :1 here to signify that it was recreated as a back order. And if we go to our completed, we can see the shipping order we just completed. And if we go to lines, you can see that we ordered 12, but we only shipped out 6 on this shipping order. So if we go back into our shipping orders, we can complete this order. And issue this order out. And we'll finish the issue. And now we have a completed order. And for what you were saying earlier, you can then print out a pick list. And these are the items that your pickers would go and pick out of the system. This can be done with completed orders or orders that are incomplete as well.
So if you're looking at a completed order, it will show you what was picked. If you're looking at an order that hasn't been completed, it will show you what to pick. By default, the system will use first in, first out logic in terms of what it tells you to pick out of the system. That said, we do also support some expiration dates. So if you have consumable goods, it can be set up to prefer those instead.
Are there any questions so far?
No, that's great about the expiration dates, because we have some of the items that we stock do have expiration dates on them. That's great.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. And the expiration date can be set at the time of receipt. It's just an option that we have to turn on that screen.
All right, now Zach Ahern mentioned earlier that we do have a system called restocking POs. And basically, this is a part of the system that will use the settings on your items to automatically select and reorder items via purchase order. So for example, if you have your inventory set that when it drops below 3 units in your warehouse, it will then reorder 4. This will allow you to create a purchase order with all of the items that are necessary for that warehouse. So as
if you let me take over for a second, you'll see on this screen right now, we have negative numbers for the available and the expected. That basically means we have more on order than we currently have in stock. So it's just suggesting that we order those to fulfill, the current needs. As Zach S. was saying, you can set a minimum and a maximum in the system. And, basically the system will just try to fill up to that maximum, and it will order in a multiple of your economy order. So if you can only order it in boxes of 5 or something like that, you can set that up here, and it'll make sure that you're not doing, you're not trying to order a partial box from your supplier or anything like that. You can choose to modify this if you'd like. So if you don't want to, necessarily order all these things, there are a few checkboxes here on the screen, so you can select what you'd like to reorder and what you wouldn't.
Yes, and you can see here it'll show the purchase order number. It will only do purchase orders for that location. So you can see that these are in 2 different locations, so it'll create 2 different purchase orders. So we'll create those purchase orders. And you can see they showed up right here. And these are to restock all of the stock that's missing. So then you can automatically just go in. It'll automatically fill in with your unit price that you have set on the item master list and the units that are required. So then we can then just, whenever we're ready to receive the purchase order in, we go in and we receive in the inventory. And that'll restock. Ooh, sorry about that. So this is another part of the system. These are items in the system that have serial numbers. So you can just set them with a serial number. And that'll solve this.
So I think those are auto-assigned serial. So actually, if you just empty that field, Zach S, and hit save again, it should break it out individual lines, I think. No, it didn't. I might not have auto-assign turned on.
There we go.
Oh, yep. So the system also supports serial number masking as well. So you'll see that it just continues the serial number that he gave it, and just does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there.
Yeah, and it'll cascade down for every item that it wants to receive in. So then it will then have the mask I set, so ABC, and then I put a 1, and it'll follow that pattern and go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to give every item a unique serial. And then we can receive in the order. All right, and with that, we finished up our purchase order. Are there any questions?
So, so we have different types of users that'll be using our system if we were to purchase your product. Is there different, for example, Susan and Bobby would be doing the full administration of the system, whereas the warehouse pickers, they would like, when things come in, they would like to search for that PO and just fill, complete the receiving on those items that came in. And they shouldn't really have access to, modifying the purchase orders or creating so is it a roles-driven environment here?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, it's similar to Windows, where you can set up different groups and permissions for each of those groups. And you can assign users to different groups in the system. So by default, we have administrators, customers, employees, and suppliers. You can choose to use all these groups or you can choose not to, but they're just kind of, basic setups in the system there. So by default, an administrator would be able to do pretty much anything in the system, and an employee, they would be able to, at least with our default setup, they'd be able to process orders, and complete them, and a lot of basic things like that, but they wouldn't be able to go in and, rename a warehouse or something like that, the more administrative options. And this is something that we can sit down with you, if you do choose to purchase, and tweak these settings, exactly the way you'd like. I think there's a little over 300 different permissions we can set. And, we also allow you to individually turn reports on or off for different groups as well, which adds another couple of hundred options on as well.
What about the use of scanners and when we're picking and when we're receiving stuff to be able to?
So iPull has.
I'll actually take this one, Zach. Yes. So. Sure. With Inventory Pro Online on the desktop, if you go over to the receiving screen, Zach S,
sure.
The system does support scanners right within the desktop user interface here. So if you had like a USB scanner attached to the computer, you could scan in the item IDs as you went down the page. And as you scan in, it'll just move to the next cell, downwards. And so the system does support some basic scanning on the desktop here. But then we also have a mobile application, which interfaces a lot more with scanners. So if you were to purchase like Android mobile devices, you can get Bluetooth scanners or sleds to attach to them, or you can actually buy all-in-one units as well that support the scanning. And through there you can scan pretty much anything you'd like. The item IDs, locations, serial numbers, RFID tags, etc.
Zach, exactly. What would you recommend? I mean, what do your customers use for handheld scanners in the warehouse?
That's kind of up in the air. It depends on how much they're looking to spend, really. Some clients, they'll just use their personal devices with a Bluetooth scanner, and that's all they use. We have other clients that will go and they'll buy the full, Android mobile devices. It really just depends on how much you want to spend, and the different solutions have different pros and cons, obviously. If you're just using a standard Android phone, it's a little bit more difficult to manage them because people can, they don't have permissions by default. People can mess with them a little bit. The sleds are a little bit more locked down, but obviously they're a lot more expensive at the same time, like the full handheld ones. Ben Spalding has a better idea of what options are out there. He normally deals with our scanner, our different vendors for scanners and such, so he can give you a little bit more detail there.
You want me to jump in here, T? The Cadillac is the Motorola, which got bought out by Zebra, all-in-one. So, you're looking at plus or minus $2,000 per, it's a pistol grip scanner. You get into lots of different options, though, because you need to figure out whether you want short range, standard range, or long range scanners. The only other thing that I'll dovetail with what Zach just said is that it's not a homogeneous environment. You can have, managers using their smartphones, and then, the 2 or 3 warehouse people, you might get the really nice Zebra industrial scanners at $2,000 a piece because they're using them all the time, and you want, good long-range scanners on them. So you can have different scanners in different parts of your building. And like Zach mentioned early on, you can have USB tethered scanners on some desktops if you have like a shipping station or a receiving station, and everything is going basically by a laptop or a PC that's on a card or something like that. So those are the least expensive, but they're also the most reliable scanners because they're tethered right to the PC or laptop or tablet. All I can say is we support it all, and we'll figure out the best solution for you depending on your needs. We're device agnostic, so the product will run on any Android device or iOS device. So Apple, or it's basically Apple and everything else. So we have you covered. It's just finding out, what your budget is, how many you need, and just finding the right fit. So that it's kind of a.
And how do we figure out what our needs are? Would you guys come visit and do a walkthrough for the requirements, or how does that work?
We can. There's actually a couple different ways we can do it. There's local suppliers, that deal just in barcode scanning equipment. So we might be better off sending a supplier in, that really specializes in the equipment and having them show you the pluses and minuses of all the equipment versus, we don't know at all. Like I said, we're device agnostic, so we don't really care what you pick. we might be better off having a supplier come in and walk you through it, give you all the options. We can show you on our website, and we can steer you to some of the. Go ahead.
So would that be a separate contract with the device maker, and it won't be to you guys?
Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. We could send a supplier in, and then you could buy it through us if you want. So if you wanted to just have a single source, you could still buy it through us, but get advice from someone else. Or you could, if you wanted, it's kind of like you buy a printer and then you get the forms from a form supplier. Well, all I can say is we'll figure it out. It's really not a big deal. The other thing I recommend is getting one device and making sure you really like it versus buying 6 or 8 or 10 of something and then deciding, it really wasn't, this other device would have been better. So usually we like you to demo a unit or two before you commit to buying a bunch.
Sure. So moving on, I know, time is kind of limited. Is there a way for us to access the database directly? For example, a lot of times there'll be ad hoc reports that people want, the number one. Number two, we also have 2 different systems we need to interact with. For example, we have an accounting system. Anytime we take things out of our stock, we need to do journal entry to our accounting system. And also, anytime we do a purchase order, when we're trying to purchase something, that purchase order has to go to this other system that generates that PO in that system. So those have to be done nightly. And is there a way for us to access the database directly, create like a service that will generate that report and upload it or things like that?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to go about that. In the past, we've done a lot of different integrations for different clients. We have a couple, pre-made accounting package integrations that we have as well. And, it is something that we can do. We can give you direct access to the database. That is a little bit, difficult to set up. It has to be, over the internet, a SQL connection like that. You have to make sure it's encrypted, have to make sure it's whitelisted so you can only access it, from a specific IP address. There's a couple of the security concerns there, but it is something that we've done before, when a client absolutely 100% needs access to it remotely. That said, if you buy the product yourselves, just the straight up installation instead of the software as a service, in that situation, the database is just on the server there. You can easily, log in and access it if it's on the server on your network there. And the logistics of that is a little bit easier to set up. The schema is fairly straightforward. We do actually, even in the UI for the application, we do allow you to modify and change the reports if you're an administrator. So it is something that you should be able to go into if you wanted to do it from your end and try to write the reports you need to run those nightly transactions. Alternatively, it is something that we can do as well. We have a lot of experience with different APIs and different systems there on our end as well.
Awesome. So what are the technologies? So what I heard you say is software as a service. So you guys are hosting it somewhere, or we also have an option to purchase it. So a few questions come up. Number one, if we were to purchase the product and have it hosted on our equipment, what technologies are your software using? Is it .NET and SQL Server?
Yeah, we basically use Microsoft products pretty much exclusively. So you're just talking SQL Server, IIS, and .NET, and pretty much any any Windows machine. If we had to, we could set it up on. But we just prefer Windows Server, obviously.
Perfect. And software as a service, there's some some requirements there from our state that number one, there's HIPAA protection. There's number two, it has to be hosted in the U.S. and support staff have to be HIPAA compliant, and so there's some necessary requirements there as well.
Yeah, there's a lot more paperwork there. To my knowledge, I know we have PCI compliance on our servers down there. I don't remember HIPAA specifically. And our servers are hosted, just outside of Philadelphia currently at a data center down there. So
I mean, if we were to say, can you host it in AWS? Is that an option or?
Sure.
Possibly.
Sure. What?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you hear me, sir?
Before we say yes, Ben, I don't remember if AWS offers a Windows package. That's just something we'd have to check into.
I'm pretty sure they do, but
I think they do, yeah. So we have a lot of applications running on AWS that are Windows.
Yeah, that should be doable.
So I don't think that's an issue. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Susan?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Do you offer either a network or web-based kind of add to cart catalog that the nurses and the people that are ordering from the warehouse can go in, look it up, click a button, say add to cart, and then send it to us?
that's the quick order.
Yeah, that would
screen,
be the
right?
yep. The quick order screen. We support that on both the mobile app and the desktop app. And this is, I think Zach S mentioned this earlier a bit, but basically it's a way where you can just pick what you'd like, add it to a cart, and then place the order. And this just generates a basic shipping order in the system. And the way we've done this for other clients, like one of the schools we've been working with lately, is we have an approval system as well. So the orders will be created by different teachers throughout the school district, and then their supervisor has to sign off on it, and then a site secretary has to sign off on it, and then finally at that point the warehouse can fulfill the order. So that is something that we do support. And there's a few different versions of the screen, one where you pick every item that you want to put in your cart, and one where it just shows every item, that you can possibly pick.
Okay, that sounds great. You answered both of my questions before I even asked them.
Okay, I have a question.
Hey,
I have a question about that before we move on. Are those people, if they were to use the quick order system, are they considered a user?
Yes and no. It depends on how we set up the system. We do have a customer exclusion, so if they're only coming in and doing that one order, we do have a setup where they can be excluded from the normal licensing. But if they're beyond those permissions, then it counts them as a full user.
Okay.
Basically, no, Cedric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just needs
my understanding. My understanding of what you just described is no, they wouldn't count as users.
Okay. So users would be someone that have full access to the system to be able to pick, make purchase orders,
Right.
and things of that nature. Okay.
Right. Exactly. Hey, Zach Schneider, did you show the inventory catalog?
The supplier
Report?
catalog or the report?
No.
Yes.
The inventory catalog report.
Yeah, the inventory count report.
No, he wants
No.
the one that has all the pictures and serial numbers on it. So go under inventory.
Yeah, I know where that is. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
Catalog.
Yep.
Show that report quick.
Sure. Looks like the pictures aren't showing up correctly though. Basically, normally this would show a giant catalog of everything in the system along with the pictures that go with it. I think the pictures aren't uploaded right now though, so we don't have our pictures ready.
All right. But it's, think of that report as,
Any questions?
Well, what is the use of this one? Is it just to print out the catalog and to show it to our staff?
So
Yeah, I
the
mean,
idea
you could-
behind this
you
is. Mhm,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the idea is you could print out a binder of this and keep it at your loading dock. And this is something that's helpful because you've got the pictures of the items in here if you have them loaded into the system. And you also have all the barcodes right here to be scanned. So some of our clients will use this if they get in product where occasionally the barcodes are damaged, or maybe a barcode got lost somewhere in the warehouse. It's just kind of a reference manual to kind of just keep around to be able to quickly look something up if it's either not labeled properly or doesn't have a label intact.
Okay. Is there a way where you can see this catalog and say, okay, I view that pencil is there, I want to pick 10 of those, and then go on to the next one and say I need 5 of the number 10 pencils, and things like that. So just pick stuff and say I want these to be ordered or
right.
delivered.
The quick order screen also shows thumbnails, images, as long as you have the images loaded. So, the users will see what they're buying or ordering.
Are there any other questions?
Hey, Zach, did you? I apologize. You showed the import-export utilities, right?
Oh, no, I did not. I can bring that up right now.
Yeah. The import-export utilities basically allow the system to, import through Excel spreadsheets, purchase orders, receiving, shipping orders, and you can do export as well. So if you need to populate another system once or twice, you can do it through these utilities.
And
it's really handy to have.
To add on what Ben said, this is also a great way to bring in all of your different inventory and suppliers. Basically, we can take one of these templates here and open it up in Excel. I don't think it'll show up though, because I'm only sharing. Let me switch so it'll show my whole screen. Here, I'll just bring it up in Excel. So you can see here, all you do is delete the top 3 lines. And now all you do is you jot down all of the different information. And then you can import all of this directly into iPull. And this is great for getting your initial inventory in. So all that needs to be done here is warehouse, item ID, and item ID, location, and in stock. If you leave in stock empty, it'll assume you're not bringing in any inventory. And this is a great way to initially get all of your inventory into iPull. And the same could be done for things like suppliers as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to go over, or any questions that you have?
Not for me. Thank you guys for taking the time. I appreciate it.
I don't have any either.
One thing we're willing to offer up is we can spin up a system for you, a test system, and let you use it for a few weeks. You can load up your inventory and, do whatever you want to do for a few weeks and just try it out if you want.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. There's we'll let you know when we find out, how we're going to move forward. I think, we just need to make sure, all our gears are in order. We're following the proper rules for procurement and so on and so forth. And then once we figure those out, we'll I guess we'll touch base with you. Yeah, and if the procurement managers are okay with the demo, that's definitely the way we want to go. So.
Great. Well, just let us know.
All right. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate the demo.
No
thanks.
problem.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.